are there some common forms of information that the police will usually try to obtain?
With traffic matters, you often get, in the first instance, a fairly bare bones brief. It'll have a statement from the arresting police officer and maybe, depending on the circumstances, one or two other statements. There are always other documents that are produced by the police in their day-to-day investigations, day notes, diary entries. It's just par for the course for any lawyer to ensure that they request all additional documents that are prepared by the police, because you never know what's going to be in there that might actually assist your defence.
And there's nothing that stops you from getting your own statements. For instance, if there was a passenger in your car and the police haven't spoken to that person, then you can be proactive in your own defence and get a statement from them and provide it to the police.
Right.
So it sounds like, just off a layperson, you would suggest that maybe they should get a dash cam or something like that to record evidence if the worst should happen on the road?
Well, that can be helpful, and it keeps a record of what's occurred. And so if there is a dispute, then you can go to the camera.
And the camera could potentially disprove anything in this instance.
Well, that's right.
So even say speeding offences, say you had a camera on your speedometer, could you use that in a case, or would that be different?
Oh, I don't know whether that would necessarily be authoritative enough.
With the police radars, they're serviced, and there's all sorts of regulations about those instruments, and you couldn't simply, I wouldn't have thought, if we're talking about having a speedo in your car that's recorded, I don't think you could just simply say, oh, well, actually my car said I was going this fast.
So Dale's method won't work. Sorry. This question came from Dale, and Dale said, oh, I'll put a camera in front of my speedometer.
It was a good idea, though.
He tried.
So, Kristina, if you are convicted of a traffic offence, will that come up in a record?
The traffic history is normally compiled and contained in your road traffic history. And so if, for instance, a prospective employer is going to do a police check on you, then your traffic history would be in a separate document to your police record.
So it might not come up on an AFP check?
That's correct.
I see.
Unless, of course, the penalty that was imposed for the driving offence is a term of imprisonment, and then it may appear on your Victoria Police record.
So, Susanna, what are the benefits of engaging a lawyer in a traffic matter?
I think that it's always beneficial to get prompt legal advice from a lawyer about any charges that you receive to go to court. If you receive an infringement notice that you disagree with, I would also say it's helpful to get prompt legal advice about exactly what your concerns with it are and how you can contest it. One of the benefits of engaging a lawyer in relation to any traffic charges that go to the magistrates court is that a lot of what the process involves is communication, and for someone who's facing charges it can be a really stressful time because you're not sure what the penalties might be, you're not sure how to manage the outcome, and to have someone who's there and not emotionally involved in the proceedings can communicate clearly to the magistrate and can really fight for the best outcome, I think removes a lot of stress for someone facing the court for the first time or for any time.
I agree. There are a lot of outcomes that can result when you go to court. They can have devastating effects on people's livelihoods, for instance, if they rely on their licence for work. And so speaking with a lawyer and getting proper advice could minimise any of those consequences.
That's an interesting point you make about needing a licence for work. In Victoria, if you lose your licence and you do need it for work, is there a way to get it back through the court system?
Unfortunately not. If you lose your licence, either being suspended or disqualified, then you're not allowed to drive for any purpose. And so it can be really devastating for some people. It doesn't apply on an even keel. One person doesn't need their licence for work and the other one does, but unfortunately the laws apply the same to both people.
I would assume this would apply to any motor vehicle? So
that's correct.
sorry, all yours.
Yeah. And I think there's a very common question out there as well. If you lose your licence in Victoria, can you go and get a licence in another state?
We were talking about this earlier. our view is that if your Victorian licence is suspended, then that suspension doesn't technically apply to any licences you might have in other states. But if you do have licence from other states, such as a New South Wales licence, and you try to drive carrying that licence in Victoria, you're still going to be subject to the suspension.
Wow, that's very interesting.
And if you're suspended in another state, then you can't go to a different state and apply for a new licence in that state. You have to disclose if you have been disqualified or suspended elsewhere.
So before we wrap up our show today, I'd just like to get your final thoughts on driving offences and traffic law in general. So Kristina?
It's a really technical area of law that a lot of people don't understand, and so it's always best if you encounter a situation where you're needing to go to court for a traffic offence to call a lawyer to help you navigate your way through the process.
And Susanna, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with Kristina, and I'd add that a lot of the time frames involved in exercising your rights, such as contesting an infringement notice, are quite tight. So the sooner you get on to speaking to a lawyer, the better, because you'll be armed with the information you need.
And Craig, yourself?
It must be. It's quite the eye-opener to see how many intricacies there are in this area of law. You hear many laypersons talking about how you can get out driving offences by driving a motorbike or something else to that effect. So it's interesting to see that there really are definite positions that we should be taking in this.
To catch up on all our past episodes, you can go to our YouTube channel or to our website www.lawhelpaustralia.org. Thank you for watching.